Horford, time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.
The year is 2024. On June 17th, the Boston Celtics won the 2024 NBA Finals after finishing the regular season as the best team in the NBA, a top 10 relative offensive rating in NBA history, and a top 5 net rating in NBA history. If we look at the 4 other teams in the top 5, we have the 96 Bulls, the 97 Bulls, the 17 Warriors, and the 2025 Thunder. 3 of the 4 teams winning a championship, and the Thunder we still have yet to see. At the time, the Celtics had 2 more years of a championship window with their core of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Al Horford. The core that made this team so hard to beat, but one play closed the entire window. As we all know, a few days ago, it was announced that Jason Tatum has a torn right Achilles tendon, not only ending his season, but making the odds of him playing any substantial time very slim. And before we go any further, I want to say prayers to Jason Tatum and his family, and we all hope for a speedy recovery. Now, I think this is something that is very, very interesting because the Boston Celtics are one of the most unique teams in the NBA. The Boston Celtics have prided themselves on having guys that can dribble, attack closeouts, shoot the basketball, and defend. And what makes the Celtics so hard to beat is when they're knocking down threes, there's no way you can catch up because they give up some of the fewest threes in the league. The Boston Celtics shoot about 48 threes a game, and they only give up 36. So within that margin, you have about a 12-3 gap, which is a total of 36 points. So if the Boston Celtics are knocking down 40% of their threes or 50% of their threes, they're going to blow out a lot of teams. And defensively, you just have a multitude of guys that you trust one-on-one, which takes away gap help, which takes away a lot of switching, which takes away a lot of mismatch hunting. You trust Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, sometimes even Al Horford or Sam Hauser in space one-on-one against good perimeter players. And that's what really makes this so interesting because I just don't know if you're going to be able to move off of some of these players and be able to get that same level of player back in return. With Jason Tatum being out for probably the entire year next year, I'm not for sure 100% he's going to be out the entire next year, but I'm sure he's going to miss a substantial amount of time. That's why this makes it so interesting because you have to be able to build a team around a different scheme than what you've been playing over the last 2 years. Because if you're going to move off KP, there's just not a lot of centers that can protect the rim at the level that KP does and shoot the outside shot at the level he does. This season, Kristaps Porzingis shot 41% from 3 on 6 attempts. With all of that rim protection, all of the mismatch attacking that he does, the mid-range shooting, and the transition three-pointers that he provides, I just don't know if you're going to be able to find that from another big. But with this level of play, we've also seen the heights and the ceilings with this Celtics team. With the Boston Celtics shooting as much threes as they do and not really having any backup plan when those threes aren't falling, we've seen stretches like this series where they're not knocking down shots and the Knicks are able to go up 2-0 against them. But when those shots are falling, it's not crazy to say that they can go band for band with the Warriors just based off offensive output. That's why I think the Boston Celtics are one of the weirdest historic teams because they're an all-time great team, especially that last year's team, because their heights are all-time great heights, and then their lows are we're down 0-2 to the Knicks low. And no disrespect to Knicks fans, it's just Boston, when they're not making their shots, they can be liable to losing to a lot of teams. So going into the season, some of the things I want to prioritize is developing some of the younger guys like Jordan Walsh, Baylor Shireman. There's a couple of draft picks that you guys could be looking at to develop those guys over this season, and I'm going to talk about that later in this episode. And it's also to find a scheme that works around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think if you're going to be sending out some of these players, you're not going to be able to run the same scheme that you guys were running this year and the past season. If we take a look at some of the contracts, Al Horford is going to be off the books after this season, and Kristaps Porzingis is going to be off the books after the 25-26 season. And this is why Kristaps Porzingis is very interesting in what they're trying to do. We know this Boston Celtics team is going to be very expensive. Next year, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to be taking up $107 million in cap. And half of that, which is Jason Tatum's $54 million, isn't even going to be playing majority of the season, if not any. So while I do think Boston is in a very serious spot, I don't think that they need to completely blow it up. I do think they need to make a couple of necessary tweaks for this team to be affordable and for them to contend. And to get this out the way now, I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown should stay. And I think this season coming up is going to do a lot for Jaylen Brown as the number one option. Yes, there's going to be ugly moments. Yes, there's going to be moments that get memed on Twitter. But this is a year where Jaylen Brown needs to become a better ball handler and better playmaker. I do think within the game time situation, he's going to be able to be more consistent with his reads, more consistent with his dribbling, maybe become a better shot creator. It's going to be ugly offense, but I think there is a potential that Jaylen Brown can be better once this situation is over. So like I've voiced earlier, with some of the bigger concerns I have for the Celtics is their big man rotation of the future, with Kristaps Porzingis coming off the book soon and Al Horford looking to face retirement within the next few years, maybe next year. It leaves a very tight rope for your rotation with the centers. You're either going to have Keita, which I don't know how to pronounce his first name, or Luke Cornett as your starting big or backup big. So some of the things I would be looking towards adding this offseason within the draft or a trade would be to get some center help and develop those guys throughout the season. And if I'm Joe Mazzulla in the front office, I'm saying, look, we're going to bring in some young talent. We're going to develop some of the young talent we have. And it may not be the best thing for our win-loss record next season, but it's going to be better for our development going into next season. I think a lot of guys like Jordan Walsh, Baylor Shireman, Keita, a lot of these guys are going to have some real minutes next year, and they should really develop under the system and be ready to play come next year. And to be completely honest, I think Boston needs a real guard. I think they need someone that can handle the pressure that a lot of people put on Ball, because the more I've seen it, I know Jaylen Brown struggles with it. I know Drew Holiday isn't really setting the table for offenses as much as he used to. Peyton Pritchard can't deal with ball pressure as much as you would like. Same could be said with Derek White. So there are a few names I have in the draft that I would like to see these guys pick up, and with you having the year to develop these guys, maybe they can be useful pieces by as quick as 26-27. I'm going to be talking about these guys player by player. I'm probably going to spend about 30 to 45 seconds on each player. And the list of guys is as follows: Liam McNeely, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Maxine Reynaud, Adu Thero, Noah Pinda, and Drake Powell. By the way, I know I botched some of these names. I'm not even going to lie. I botched a lot of these names. Don't even worry about it. Coming into this draft, I know a lot of people are expecting Liam McNeely to be a lottery pick. I still have him there, at least outside, right outside of the lottery or just inside the lottery. But there is some concern with his injury history, or just him being injured over the season, that really plummeted his stock. And he wasn't having the best season at UConn before he went down. So this is probably somebody you're probably going to have to trade up a few picks for to go get, if that's really your guy. I think he is really good for what the Boston Celtics could use. I think he's a really good catch and shooter. I think he attacks his closeouts really well, and I do think he finishes well around the rim. And he's just like that 6'7", 6'8" kind of guy that can defend, drive to the basket, and shoot in an NBA role. And if somebody's manufacturing good looks for him, like a Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, I do think he could be very valuable in the NBA. But once again, this is somebody you're probably going to have to trade up to pick 22 to 26 for. Next player I want to talk about is Ryan Clark-Brenner, who I've been really higher on, and I would love to see him on the Lakers. But this is somebody that you need to have some size. He's about 7'1". He's a really good rim protector and play finisher. I've seen him get up and down the floor in transition as well. I'm really concerned about how he's going to guard in space, because the Boston Celtics have trusted at least Al Horford to guard in space. So you may want to get a big man that can do that. But as a stationary rim protector, post defender, and rebounder, I think he could be very solid there. The next big man I want to talk about is Maxine Reynaud, and this is a guy that can shoot the three, can put the ball on the floor, can finish around the basket, and has shown some real chops as a defender. And this is probably a guy that I would like the Celtics to take more than a Kalkbrenner, just because I want him on the Lakers. But he does make the three pretty consistently. He can drive. He's very mobile. So I would be looking forward if he was to get drafted by the Celtics. Next player I want to talk about is Adu Thero. He reminds me a lot of Jonathan Kuminga, and I think if you use him properly, he could be a good player for this team. Just really athletic, really strong, very good defensive upside, and a finisher around the rim. This is somebody that could be a cutter, somebody that you could use in the dunker, which I know they don't necessarily use a lot of bigs in the dunker. They necessarily would like to put Drew Holiday there, so if you still have KP there, KP can stretch out in the corner or in the wing, and you can have Adu Thero in the dunker. He's athletic enough to be a lob threat, transition finisher, somebody that can drive off closeouts. That's very intriguing. Second to last player on my board is Noah Penda. I think he's really good defensively, and he's gotten a lot better as a shooter and as a ball handler. This is somebody that can plug in multiple roles. I think he stands at 6'7", 6'8". I haven't necessarily checked all the measurements for these players as of right now, but I do think he stands about 6'7", 6'8", which is another guy that you can have a lot of size, transition play, defense, versatile defense as well. With guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Noah Penda on the floor, you become very versatile and you can become very switchable. This is another prospect that you're probably going to have to trade up for. I've seen Noah Penda mocked all over the first round. I've seen him in the lottery. I've seen him at the end of the first round. It basically depends on what teams you think are going to snatch him. And last but not least, I think this can be a second round pick, Drake Powell. This is a guy that has a lot of length, a lot of size. He has a really inconsistent three-point shot, but he is really good as a defender on ball, and he shows some signs as a really good ball handler as well. Now, those are the 6 prospects I have in mind for the Celtics at the end of the first round, and I think early in the second round. Make sure you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about these prospects and what prospects would you have the Celtics looking at. And to be fair, I think the Celtics have a really good development system. I think Peyton Pritchard is one of those guys that came in and learned as he went along, and now he's the 6th man of the year. I think the Boston Celtics can take this season to really develop some of these younger guys. I think Jordan Walsh is ready for some minutes, seriously. I think Baylor Shireman is ready for some serious minutes. I think these guys can come in and make a real impact, and once you have the other rookies that can come in and they can learn off of Jaylen Brown, they can learn with Jason Tatum on the sideline next to them. There's a lot of things that can be learned with this Boston Celtic crew. So I don't necessarily think that this next season is a wash. I know a lot of people are going to look at it that way since Jason Tatum's going to be down. I also know a lot of people are going to push Jaylen Brown agenda, but I think this is a season to really step back, try and rework a scheme around a team that you can potentially build, because you can't keep this team forever. This team is going to be extremely expensive coming up. And this is why I question if Drew Holiday should be on the market. Now, this is not something that I'm head over heels for, because I think Drew Holiday is still a fantastic player. But once again, with how expensive this team can be and how much that can strain you as a unit, I don't know if Drew Holiday is going to be someone that you would want to keep. Right now, my untouchables are Derek White, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. And if you get the right offer for all these other guys, goodbye. And last but not least, Kristaps Porzingis. And I think this postseason for Kristaps Porzingis is probably made the rope just a little longer for you to let go of him and try and find a trade. And I know schematically, Kristaps Porzingis is kind of like the perfect center for what the Boston Celtics are trying to do. But in this playoffs, he just was not good. He was not good defensively. He wasn't good at attacking mismatches like you would want him to. And he wasn't knocking down his shots. And it's like, if you're going to be paying someone that much money, and one, they're already at injury risk and they're not playing well or performing in the postseason, this is now 2 straight years where he's either missed most of the postseason or just has not played well. And I think it's going to give you more of an opportunity to move him and try and bring in another center. I actually mocked up a trade for the Boston Celtics. I have Jonathan Isaac and Tristan Da Silva going over to the Portland Trail Blazers, and I have the Boston Celtics getting Cole Anthony and Robert Williams. This gives the Boston Celtics another center in Robert Williams, who they already have chemistry with and already have played with, and another ball handler in Cole Anthony who can make solid decisions. All in all, I think the Boston Celtics are still in a pretty good spot. I think they have a top 5 player in Jason Tatum. I think they have a really good second option in Jaylen Brown. And I do think they have the foundational pieces already within the team for them to bounce back from this season and to be a championship contender once again. And if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All my socials will be in the link in the description below. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.